Hey yo, it's your boy Sam Duke.
Yeah.
And I am Joe Duke.
And when you are listening to another good episode of You Good,
Good.
Bruh.
Bruh.
uh, yes, as you can see, as you can tell, we are still quarantining. You know, we're stuck in the house, hanging out, but we still bringing this quality content to you. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. She is my friend of a lot of years. Met her in 2004, maybe 2003. Yeah, this is crazy as hell. It's like 17 years, I think. That's a long damn time, right? Shit, I'm only 30. So 31. But yeah, I've known her a long time. We've been friends a long time. She's done a lot of really, really great things. You ever have these friends that really, really inspire you to, to do great, be great, and friends that are just better than you? I can tell people when they're better than me, in certain ways, and so she has a heart for the people, and she's just been one of these people that's been an inspiration since we've met, and she's here to tell us a story about what's been going on with her during this pandemic. And so without further ado, I would introduce you guys to Raioni Madison.
Hey everybody.
Hey Ray.
Hey,
there she goes.
First things first, Ray, can you please tell these people about everything that you got going on first? Because I don't want that to get lost in everything that we have going on here. Go ahead and let our viewers know, or our listeners know.
So my name is Raioni. I am a educator by trade, but I left the classroom a year ago to pursue my venture. I started a nonprofit called 3D Girls Inc. 8 years ago as an opportunity to connect and inspire young women. Growing up, I had really great mentors that supported and pushed me through high school when I had some challenges, and in return, it was just been always my mission to do the same for other young ladies. And so over the years, we have been able to educate and empower young women to be advocates for themselves and their families through leadership development, prenatal and parent education, as well as social and emotional wellness. And so at the beginning of this year, I was operating in those gifts and doing exactly all of that. Hosting community baby showers, hosting workshop sessions, paint parties, helping people to connect with their social and emotional wellness. And yeah, I've been operating in a space of social entrepreneurship for a year. I absolutely love not clocking in, not being in the classroom, not giving so much of myself when I don't want to. And so this has been a beautiful year of self care, self-awareness, and just realizing what I want out of my future.
And it's called 3D Girls?
3D Girls.
Okay.
You're a people person, definitely. You are working with a lot of people. That's what it sounds like.
Yes.
I mean, and being that she's worked with a lot of people, I think that outside of, I mean, not outside, actually inside of what she's doing, the pandemic hit. While she was, retooling, relaunching, doing what she does, and it seemed as if, because of the type of work that she does, this is not off time for her; it's on time for her. You get what I'm saying? And so it's like when a lot of us, we kind of retreated, went into our space and did our thing, people like Rihanna are the ones that are like, okay, well, there are people out here that need us, that need help, that need, that just, I mean, she was actually outside. How some people like when outside open up, she was outside when outside closed up. And so, she actually, ended up, I don't know how to say, is it contracting or, getting the virus, or she got corona. She got the Rona, right? At one point.
Rihanna, you got the Rona?
She
I don't know how we're going to maintain my professionalism with you.
No, no.
Boy, I mean, I was thinking about coronavirus, but I
Yeah, yes.
but I opted out.
This is a surprise episode. Okay. Go ahead. We listening. Go ahead.
So initially, I was upset about Corona because
Hell yeah, I would be too. Go ahead.
not even contracting Corona, but this is before like school shutting down. I do contracting work with nonprofits, so I do work as a nonprofit consultant, and so I had just like redone my contracts for March and April, and I was getting ready to go back into the space of get my income, get my coins and developing programs. I do program management and school shut down. So what that meant for me is as a single mom, I have to kind of manage my children and I have to manage what work was going to be like because my income pretty much was at stake as a contractor. You have to work to get paid, and so I didn't have like a income, and so I was really worried about that. So I took on gig jobs. I worked Amazon, I worked Instacart. So I wasn't just doing the service work. The service work came like a little bit later. So as things were coming down, I was like, still working essential work. And so in an effort to support the work that we do as a nonprofit, we have community baby showers, and we had one coming up. So what we did was we decided to, host a drive up care package distribution where we distributed diapers, wipes, and feminine hygiene products to the moms and girls in our community. And so we did that. I was prepared, gloves, masks, all that stuff. Even as I was working, I went to work prepared, and I wasn't around people. With Amazon, it was like Amazon Flex. So you drive your own car, you're your own contractor. So I honestly don't know where it came from. So because I was working, and I think about the essential workers now who are in the space, open, and people are coming in and out. Prior to when I had my experience, there were no regulations on masks. There were no regulations on, social distancing. Like everybody was just in a panic trying to get what they needed from stores. And as when I did Instacart, I was like in the store. So it was constantly busy. It was constantly people around. It was constantly things going on. So like, I can't necessarily trace how I got the virus, but for about a week, like in mid-March, I had a sore throat. And so that's when they started talking about the symptoms. And, first it was all respiratory and different things like that. And so I didn't have those symptoms. And so a friend of mine, he posted like that he had the virus. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder what his experience was. So I texted him and was like, so what happened? And so he was like, yeah, you probably need to go get seen. So for a week, like I said, I had a sore throat, and then the following Sunday, my stomach was messed up. And so I'm like, this is not right. So my stomach was messed up long enough for me to say, okay, let me go to the urgent care. And so I went to urgent care.
Excuse me, Rihanna, what is stomach messed up? Explain that.
Yeah, the BG.
Like, is that you got boo-boo? Just be honest.
Like, it was just unruly. Like, it wasn't normal stomach virus.
You said it was unruly?
Yeah, I've heard unruly before.
Yeah, it just wasn't right.
It just wasn't acting right.
You can tell when you've had like a bad meal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what prompted me to go to urgent care. And so I went to urgent care. They did a drive-up test and told me to go ahead and quarantine for 14 days. And so in that time, I was just like, okay, I'm going to be at home. My kids are at home. Like, I was like, okay, this is what it is. And of course, you know, having kids, I worried tremendously about my income and, you know, being able to provide and all that kind of stuff. So I was like really nervous. And then 3 days later, I got the results that, you know, it was positive. And so I quarantined for 14 days in my room by myself. What they tell you is that, you know, you don't use the same bathroom. You don't, you know, you kind of separate yourself from your family if you're living in that space. And so my daughter, my oldest daughter, who is 12, she kind of took on the role of teacher, chef, sister for my youngest daughter. And like, that was really hard for me because I'm really engaged with my girls. And so to FaceTime them from my room, making sure they're getting up, you know, making breakfast, getting online for school. It was kind of depressing for me because I'm so involved with them, and the structure and the things that I had already put in place for our homeschool experience, you know, I couldn't enforce them. And so I experienced severe anxiety during that time, that 2-week period. And like, it was literally like, I'm going to count down until like this 14-day period. And I wasn't sick. Maybe 3 days I had those symptoms after going to urgent care. I was fine. So I started working out. You know, I didn't have much of an appetite, but I drank water constantly, religiously, like, and I felt okay. I felt cool. And it was just more so of the anxiety of just, you know, I'm not used to being at home, number one. I'm always out and about. I'm always doing community work. I'm always working. I'm always doing something.
Yeah, you're
And
always
so
moving.
being at home in my room, of all places, you know, like I've lived in my home for about 2 years now, and I hadn't decorated. I hadn't. So for me, it's just like a place where I rest my head. And so during that time, it was like, oh, let's make this space, you know, your piece.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make this, you know. And so I was going through different, you know, phases where I was trying to figure out, you know, how do I make my space peaceful so that I could be in peace? Because I experienced a lot of anxiety, and I never had anxiety before.
Let's talk about that. Since you said you experienced a lot of anxiety, what did it feel like? Was it like a wave? Was it like something that crept up on you? Was it like, you know, like, was it just like, you know, what are the thoughts like? Because we had a gentleman we brought on the show, you know, that kind of talked about how, you know, it was within an instant, but he was in a hospital setting. Mm-hmm. So there was no, you know, his kids weren't, you know, a door away. He was literally, he was FaceTiming too. And that's what he was talking about. But like, what did the anxiety, what did it feel like? Like, what was the...
It feels, it's so hard to explain. You just feel unsettled. You can't calm. You can't find a space where you could just like not think about what you're going through. And my daughter is going through therapy. And so I had to call her therapist to kind of get some clarity as to what I was feeling. I just kept saying, I don't feel well. I don't feel well. It's not that I'm sick, but I don't feel well.
You don't feel like yourself.
Yeah. And I would literally pace my room, like walk around my bed, walk and look at the window. And I was like, what is going on? And I had to, you know, put a name to it. And like I said, I'm always busy. I always have something to focus on. And so I think I was anxious because I didn't know what I was experiencing too. So I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to focus on and it made me even more anxious.
It's like the fear of the unknown, right? Because like, okay, you know, everybody's like COVID-19. It's this, you know, it's this.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, did you get any of that anxiety come from, like, were you watching some of the coverage and trying to?
I couldn't. So I couldn't watch. I couldn't be on social media. Like I posted a few workouts, but I wouldn't engaged.
Intentionally.
I intentionally did not scroll. I intentionally did not read. And it got to a point where it just was consuming. And so I have a friend, my close friend, she would call me every day in the morning. And she would talk to me for like 2 hours. And that would kind of get my mind off of what was going on. Or, she, you know, she'll ask me, am I okay? I also went outside and I walked. Like in the second week of my quarantine, I actually got outside my room. And for my children, it was just really hard because they like would sit at my door and talk to me through the door, like, oh, I want to hug you. Oh, can we come? And it's just like telling them no kind of broke my heart. So I cried a lot. When they went to sleep, I would just, you know, come out of my room. I would clean, I would sanitize because they would be downstairs, upstairs, all over the house. And so like the anxiety became obsessive with cleaning, like, because I didn't want them to experience what I was experiencing.
Right.
And so when my quarantine period was over, like the first thing I did was go get retested. And I came back negative, but I still had those fears. And I still had that anxiety that my children, you know, they could experience, you know, the symptoms after incubation or whatever. And so like
or you could have gave it to them too. That's another, you know,
exactly. So like the cleaning became religious. Like, and my aunt, she FaceTimed me and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm cleaning up. She's like, you have to calm down. Like you have to, like, you vacuumed this morning. Chill. But it became an obsession. And so after the negative results came in, I kind of settled in my spirit, like, all right, at some point we have to move on. At some point we have to figure out how to take the next step.
Let's talk about that, because me and you talk, and that when I talked to you, you know, that was what we talked about. You was like, I just don't know how. You know, I don't know what. And, you know, I told you, I was just like, I mean, I gave you some advice. I don't know if it worked or not, but, you know, I just said, hey, look, just do a little bit. Every day you do a little bit more, you know, and try that. If that doesn't work, go back to what you was doing and then try it again, you know. And so talk to us about how did that happen? Like, do you feel like you even gotten to the point where you've, you know, gotten back into a rhythm or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, it just started by taking a first step, like outside. I just would walk in my subdivision, and I just would walk and I would pray. Like, I'm a woman of faith, and so God really spoke to me during that season. And like, while I was so worried about what I was feeling, like I forgot who I serve. I forgot who I was, and I forgot, you know, who was inside of me. And so my faith became stronger. And so I began feeding myself again with the word of God, and I began, you know, meditating, and I began spending quality time, like literally putting my phone down, literally making time and space to refuel. And what God showed me during that time is like, Raioni, you have been going all of your adult life. Like, why don't you deserve to take a break? Why don't you deserve to relax? Why don't you deserve to be still? And so what it became is like, I had to get this experience to figure out what rest was. I had to get this experience on, you know, how to, like you guys talked about, how to protect your peace. Because I've gone through several traumatic experiences within the last year, and my way of coping has been serving others. And so through my divorce, through losing family members, through having another child, like, I've always triumphed, or in my mind, I thought I was experiencing growth by moving forward and not dealing with the things that I dealt with. And so after, you know, that next week of, you know, just realizing that this is a time that I can enjoy, I woke up on a Friday night and I had heart palpitations. Like I woke up out of my sleep and my chest was beating so fast. And I got up and I was like, am I scared? Like, what is it? I kept asking myself, like, is my heart beating fast? Like, and I just started thinking. And so I couldn't calm down. And so
this is after you test negative.
This is after testing negative. This is after the experience with the whole quarantine. Like I was free. I didn't go anywhere. I still, you know, maintained my space and my distance. I still, you know, I stayed at home. But I experienced like my chest hurting and my heart beating like a rapid heart rate. So according to CDC, if you start experiencing that, you know, consult with a doctor. And that's what I did. And so the doctor
I got a quick question. Have you been going outside after you tested negative, or you just been chilling in the house?
So for the most part, I chill in the house. I waited about 2 weeks after testing negative, but I've also had some other health challenges. Mm-hmm. So when I had the heart palpitation in the situation, like I went to the doctor, they were like, well, you're fine. You're wheezing a little bit. I have a history of asthma. So they gave me steroids and they gave me an inhaler and told me, you know, if you don't feel better, then there's that. So a couple of days go by, I'm fine. And I decided to go back to work. We had another distribution of outreach efforts. And so I grabbed some volunteers and I was like, you know, we're going to deliver the packages versus, you know, doing a pickup thing. We're just going to do a drop situation. And so that required me to go to pick up items, shop, and, you know, package things. And I was like, this is cool. You know, I can get into this. I'm doing it from home. And the volunteers came and they got the stuff and they distributed, and it was cool. And then I started, someone asked me to do like a date night paint kit situation. So I started doing paint kits to, you know, it was to, of course, receive income, and then also to just take my mind off everything and try to like get back into what was normal. And it was very seamless. My children were able to help and all was well. A couple of days after that, I woke up in the middle of the night in excruciating pain on my left side of my chest and in my arm. And the pain was so bad, like I literally got up out of my sleep. And I didn't know what it was. And so I just started praying, and it just started, you know, like maybe it'll go away. It went on for 3 days. And my mom was like, you need to go get checked out. Man. Because this is your left side. And they associate, you know, if you have pain in your chest and in your arm, it's associated with your heart, could be a stroke.
Stroke.
And so, you know, that really scared me. And at the time,
Right, I've been scared.
That's the whole time you sit here talking, I'm like, I'm scared as hell.
The whole time. She's like, now I got scared.
I'm like, bruh.
I felt like I had overcome the anxiety. Like I'd overcome, like I was getting back into the groove of life. And then this random pain. I also had like really bad reflux. Like, so I'd gone to one doctor and they gave me medicine for the reflux, and they was like, oh, your arm will be fine. We're going to give you this muscle relaxer. That shit.
That is not what you want to hear.
That
is not what you want to hear.
They're like, oh, you'll be fine. Take the muscle relaxer. Shit.
Rihanna, you ever experienced something like this?
Never. I've never had any health challenge. I've never had any serious issues. As a child, I had asthma, and I had one asthma attack, and I stayed in the hospital for like a week.
That's the worst it's got.
That's the worst I've ever experienced in terms of
as a child.
As a child. As an adult, I've never had this experience. So when the pain didn't go away after 3 days, I went to the emergency room. And in the emergency room, they did blood tests. And so this was right when like an article came up on my phone, maybe a day or two after. I went to the emergency room basically saying that people are coming back with issues with blood clots, strokes, mystery symptoms, different things like that.
Yeah.
So they wanted to make sure that none of those things were happening. They told me my potassium was low, which it could be reasons why my arm hurt, my muscles are sore, I'm not drinking enough water. I drink water by the gallon. So I'm just like, I don't know about this. So a week later, the pain had navigated from like my neck, like literally like my cheek, neck, all the way down to my foot. I was numb. And I really, really couldn't. Like, I was literally crying on the phone to my mom and my dad. Like, I don't know what to do. Tylenol doesn't work. Motrin doesn't work. Like, what do I do? So I went back to the emergency.
You said you was numb?
I was numb. Yep.
Sheesh.
When I got up, like, I couldn't feel my foot on the ground. And
that sounds like
and I was really scared. So I went back to the emergency room. Again, my blood work came back normal. They said that my that it could be muscular. Like, I'm like, this is not a muscular pain. So
muscular? What's muscular? I don't know what muscular is.
Like, you have inflammation in your muscles. So
so like it's like if you work out.
If you work out,
right.
you sore, like that kind of that.
Oh,
it could be muscular,
okay.
But from the sounds of it, you're saying it's just all out, just
pain.
Numb or pain.
Yeah, it's numb or pain. Yeah, it's like it sounds nervous. You like your nervous system is fucking up.
Yeah. So I after they told me, they did a chest x-ray, made sure my heart was good. They said my heart looks great. No fluid on my lungs because they were worried about getting pneumonia because, that's another step in the COVID situation,
Right.
when things start getting worse. So my lungs were fine. My heart was good, but I still had this pain. So another couple of days went by and it was excruciating. Like, I really couldn't manage. Like, my children had gone to stay with my mom, and my mom was just like, maybe you just need to relax. You need to rest. And so she came and got the girls. And by this time, I was just completely over it. Like, I'm like, God, what are we doing? What's happening? What is this pain about? And so one of my friends' moms is somebody that I confide in. And so she, gave me scriptures on healing. I just had to really kind of continue to speak that over my life because, like, none of the doctors knew. And so I just kept saying, God, I know you know if they don't know.
Hey, man, you got to go to what you know sometimes. It's
So
like
I need to know what to do in this situation. And, like, every day I had been able to walk outside and I wasn't walking. And that depressed me. Like, the pain depressed me. Not being able to go outside and walk depressed me.
Right.
And not knowing what was going on was depressing to me. So I started having muscle spasms a couple days after that, like really bad, like all over my body. Like,
wow.
It is wild. And so that same day, another article from the Washington Post popped up on my phone. And it was just about the after effects of, like, what they're seeing. And so everything that I had been going through, like, it was in the
article.
So the muscle spasms, the pain, the inflammation, and there's no source of the inflammation. So,
and this is you almost a month out from being considered negative.
A negative status. So I went back one more time to the emergency room. And the most sensible explanation that I got was that I experienced the overactive immune response to the virus. And what it means is, like, your body fought so hard while you had the virus that now it's like kind of tired and it's worked, like your muscles worked and everything worked to fight off the virus, and now here are the after effects.
And like overload.
Overload. So one of my friends is a nurse, and she said, her is the best way to explain it is like her mom who had a stroke, right? After the stroke, her left side was like, that was the after effects. Her left side, she had to learn how to walk again. She had to learn how to, go through physical therapy and do all these different things because of what happened. Not to say that you're having a stroke now, not to say that I still had the virus, but now there may be some damage. And so I was, after like consulting with different doctors, I called my mentor, who he was a mentor for me in one of the programs that I was in, and he's a neurologist. And so I called him and I was just like, I don't know what's going on with my body. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. And so he said, well, we're going to get you an MRI. And at the time I didn't have insurance. So I had to raise the money to get an MRI because I felt like it was nerve pain because it was numb, it was tingling, it was burning. And so when the MRI came back negative, he said that it has to be, something structural going on, muscular. So I'm just like, okay. So I tried everything from soaking in Epsom salt to CBD to like pain salves. Like nothing was working.
Hey, edibles.
You try edibles?
She is not going to incriminate herself.
Hey, wait! You don't have to say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
That was before Corona.
I'm just saying. I'm just thinking about it in my head. I'm like, shit. I would have took an edible with the sleep.
Like, I wanted to smoke weed. Yeah, I wanted to. That's the only thing I did not do. But anyway, nothing worked. And so the last trip to the emergency room, like they were like, we're gonna give you antibiotics, we're gonna give you steroid, we're gonna give you this. Like, I'm like, wait, whoa.
They're showing everything but the book.
Yeah.
Y'all can't tell me what's wrong, but y'all want to put out. No.
All this medicine in
I
you.
said, God, we
all this on me, but the book.
we gonna rock this out. We gonna see what's going on. And so I did the MRI, and then I started a physical therapy regimen where I went to a massage therapist, and it was like a chiropractic massage where they were able to work out a lot of the tension that had been built up. And what he told me, this guy, old white man, 40 years.
Hey man, chiropractors, they be having it. But continue. I'm sorry.
He told me, people who experience illnesses can develop this type of reaction, any major illness. So, and if you are bedridden, or if you are not, like, I'm used to working out 3 to 5 times a week. If you're not doing physical activity, if you're not, your body can tense up, and your body, he's like, almost caves in on you. And so that was the explanation he gave to me. And as he was doing the movements and the, I guess, massage, it wasn't like oil and, relax. It wasn't.
Nah.
I got a question, Ron.
Hold on. Let her finish.
Okay, go.
So as he was doing it, like, he pushed different pressure points, and he told me like where my pain was. Like, he would push my shoulder and my arm would start hurting, like my left arm. And so I think I had a 90-minute session, and the tension and the things that had been worked up in my body, he was able to release. And so I left the session like, wow. And so as I was going through like my prayer time and like reflecting on it, it's just like, could have it been, in lieu of the virus and all of that, you've also had an amount of tension over the years and a lot of things that had been built up within you that caused this reaction, that caused this inflammation, and that caused you to like have to sit your tail down and actually have to be present.
Well, one thing me and Mikhail, and we always talk about that your mental, the things you have going on can always, Mikhail always breaks down the chemicals and the way that it has an impact on your body. I don't know about all, I can't remember one from the other, but I do know that it has an impact. And like you said, like it may have been a long time worth of tension, a long time worth of stress. And to be honest with you, you went from anxiety to trauma. Like that's what I just heard. Like this was
I heard trauma because you got the diagnosis and what that means, right? Because you were just living life. You just hustling like you do. You get money for your family, and then turn around, you get hit with a disease that you haven't been able to really trace where you could have possibly have gotten it from. And then you're cut off from the world at that point. For 14 days, you had to talk to your kids through the door. I mean, nothing that was normal in your life was happening anymore, and
Right.
you had no idea what was gonna happen next. You had asthma, you had all this stuff, and even though you cut yourself off from social media and the news, you had been exposed to it before. Can't unlearn what you learned.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
So that stuff is in your head, and that to me is a trauma piece. You coming out of it and having an anxiety attack on the back end of it isn't inconsistent with what happens. People survive car accidents and then they freak out when they're standing outside of the car. It's just kind of oh my God, I survived. Like, what the hell? And you start reliving what you just went through.
Yeah.
And it manifests itself. But as far as the stress, was it stress that existed before? More than likely. I mean, we all have stress is a normal part of life. And for at least what? I don't know, 2 weeks, 14 days, 21 days. Can you compact stress on top of stress in 21 days? And that could have manifested itself in the overload? Sure. That's not unreasonable.
Yep.
That's not unreasonable. But cortisol is the hormone you're thinking about, Sam. Sorry. It's it's the stress chemical that our body creates. And it has a function that's involved with how we live and deal with stress on a daily basis. But when it's too much of anything is bad.
Yeah.
But I had seen that same article about the post, positive testing or people that have been released from the hospital still having these residual effects. I actually heard a radio interview of this family that had it, and one of the men's sons never had diabetes before.
Wow.
But then all of a sudden he gets sick enough to where when they ran a test, he was like, "Oh shit, you got diabetes." And he's been to a doctor prior to, never had that stuff. So, and I think we're still learning what the after effects of this disease, this virus does to the body. It's kind of why I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but yes, I am. And I feel like this thing's a little engineered to
It's
me.
manufactured. It's manufactured.
Yeah, it's doing things that I've never heard or seen a virus is doing.
That shit is like the perfect storm. Is what it seemed like. It seemed like the perfect storm, and I just wonder, like, a lot of people are saying, all right, look, doctors, not necessarily like normal people like me and you, they're saying this disease is mirroring more HIV than the actual common cold type thing, because HIV attacks certain organs, some immunes, those type of things, and it's starting to look like that. You're saying like all of this stuff happened. I'm sitting there like, God damn, like, this is after they said, all right, it's gone, and
Joe wanted to add something.
Oh yeah, Joe, my bad.
But it reminds me of Terminator, the Liquid Man that could turn to anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of sort of what this is. It could turn into anything. You don't know what it is. It's going to start flying the next day. It's going to walk the next day. It's going to do so many things to you. But the question,
I think too, for me, I've had issues with my digestive system. So one of my friends and I were talking like how the symptoms from the people that I know, that have had it have been different. So a friend of mine who has had respiratory issues, bronchitis, he had those symptoms. So I was like, well, maybe it just attacks, your weakest point, or, what it is. It's like, but the fact that we don't know is what most people aren't realizing. Like when we talk about opening back up and we're talking about going out and we're talking about when we see people around each other, it's like what it does for you may not be what it does for me. Like, and not having the sense enough or being courteous enough, you know, to take those precautions and to, you know, I think it's just a lack of education. And at this point, we all are uneducated about this virus to a certain extent. And it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Let me ask, and listening to your story, right? And then listening to the after effects. Even though we don't, you know, we don't know what could have been done better, you know, throughout the process, what you think, like, you think submitting to it kind of affected the after effects?
What do you mean submitting to it?
Like I hear Sam, when we was talking about the Kuzmo dude, what's his name?
Oh, you're talking about Andrew Cuomo or whatever his name is?
Yeah, like how he was talking about his experience with it and how he was saying, like, he was basically talking about how he didn't submit to it, how he was like,
basically he had to get up. He had to take deep breaths.
Definitely has something to do with it. And over time, like when I was in quarantine, I didn't let it get to me to the point where I didn't stop, you know, exercising. I exercised every day. Up until my negative, up until I started experiencing the other issues. And so I wasn't bothered by it. I began to accept it and, you know, realize like this is just something I have to get through. I think, you know, just the unknown of what could happen next. Like people just having strokes out of nowhere who have, you know, been relatively healthy all of their lives, you know, these were happening. And I think it said to 5% of the people who tested positive. Like one study, it's a small percentage of people who are experiencing effects afterward. But we don't know what will happen a year from now. You know, we don't know if we could trace it back to this virus, you know, health challenges or whatever. But I think that's what for me in moving forward, I looked at how I weathered the storm. And I know I'm stronger because of it. My faith is stronger because of it. I think I had to go through the experience of anxiety. I think I had to go through the experience of trauma so that I know how to come out of it, if that makes sense. Like mentally, I've kept things in for so long. And so if it means submitting to it or accepting it and not calling it something else or not responding or refusing to respond to it, right? Like it is what it is. And day by day, minute by minute, I had to learn how to accept that it is what it is. And I can't be anxious for what's going to happen tomorrow. I can't continue to create more anxiety because I don't know what's going to happen next. Like
in the present,
you have to be present. And I think for me and my story is a lot of how I've lived my life is reflected upon like what's going to happen in my future and refusing to be present and like always worrying about what's going to happen next. What do I need to do? Having a to-do list and all these different things that's going to keep me busy. But no, be present. Take it one day at a time. And I started journaling. I started journaling in my process and like just gratitude of like what happened today. That was good. Like I didn't wake up and I wasn't in excruciating pain today. You know, I only had to take 2 Tylenol as opposed to 4. You know, like the smallest things I had to like really accept that things are going to get better. I had to accept the fact that, you know, every time I went to the emergency room, my blood work came back. Okay, I wasn't having a stroke. I didn't have.
I'm going to ask you, were they testing every time for COVID? Every time you went to the emergency room?
No. So, the first time I did ask them, would they give me another test? And they told me no. They only they were like, you can go to one of the free testing places, but they would only test people who were admitted. So if you didn't have a fever, if you weren't experiencing those consistent symptoms, the cough, the sore throat, those type of things, they're not going to test you. And so by the third time, one doctor told me to go get tested again. And I was like, I don't think I can go through that. Like, I don't know if I want to experience that anxiety because I wasn't experiencing those symptoms. So they told me I could take like an antibodies test. And I think for me, it's like, okay, Ray, are you going to keep searching for a result within me? Because I didn't have a primary care doctor at the time. I recently got all of that situated. But are you going to keep looking for something to be anxious about? Or are you going to trust God in this situation? And so that's where I kind of found my peace. Like, I have to trust God in this situation. And I started doing the gratitude. And I started, taking my mind away from what was wrong and what was right. Like, during this time, I had a village that was supporting me. So I had to, focus my positive energy and being grateful for that. I've had food. I've had my bills paid. I haven't had to worry about financial things like I initially thought I would. And so it became a journey of just peace. And so, like, when I heard the last episode on protecting your peace, I was just like, I need to talk to Sam again, because I'm in that place where, like, even with my kid's father, like, we had a disagreement about, the girls and whether or not they should go with him. And, I was like, you know what? It's time to learn how to protect my peace. It's time to learn how to get into a place where, I'm not creating, or I'm not trying to be anxious about this situation, because I really wanted to know. And I'm the type of person, when I want to know something, I'm really want to know, and I want to figure it out. So it's honestly been a journey of learning myself, and a journey of trusting God in the process of it all.
I think what's interesting about this is in the midst of something so what I would consider so traumatic, it seems as if, because you've always served others. It seems like that's literally what I know you for. You've served others, and you serve others well. But it seems as if now you kind of serving yourself.
Yeah.
You kind of, you're switching it a little bit. And it's like, people say self-serving, usually it has a negative connotation, but I think that there's some value to serving yourself and figuring out, of course, you take the disease away, there are things, or the virus away, there are things that positive can come from a traumatic situation or a chaotic situation.
Right. And I think I realized, like, what was important for me is to make sure that I'm well, not just physically, not just, in my health, but mentally as well. Like, emotionally, be okay. And even in, like, my prayer time, and even in my, like, I stumbled upon, like, the story of Noah and the ark, right? Like, where God was just upset with the world and what was happening. And so he decided to have this flood. And I'm just thinking to myself, dang, Noah was quarantined. You know what I'm saying? Him and his crew, they quarantined on a boat, and if you go back and you look at it, and it's just like, God prepared him in that time. Like, and the question came to me, like, how are you building your ark? How are you preparing yourself for what's happening around you? And how are you going to weather this storm? Are you going to spend this time being distracted? Are you going to spend your time being worried or anxious? Like, worry what I've learned, it exposes what's important to you.
Well, yeah, you spotlight. It spotlights.
Spotlights that. And so I'm like, I'm prioritizing all these other things over myself. You know what I'm saying? How I feel. And so I just wanted to not feel that way. And I wanted to take this time and I really reflected on that time, like, you know, all the destruction, all the things that happened during that 40 days. It wasn't even 40 days and 40 nights. It rained 40 days and 40 nights, right?
It seemed like you was awakened.
Yes, I woke.
Well, that's, you know, it's funny because it sounds like, it sounds, as terrible as this thing has been, this sounds like it could have been a blessing and not a curse for you.
Right. I do feel that way. I do. After coming out of it,
right,
like being where I am now is just like, I feel okay, you know, and I feel more connected to who I am as a person. And like, I've been able to hire somebody on my team to take care of, you know, the service stuff. And it's like, oh, it feels good to delegate.
So that was my question. That's how I was kind of leading to, like, reflecting on how you used to operate. What are you, because like you mentioned, your daughter had a therapist. Like, what are you putting in place in your tool belt and your team? You just said that you just hired somebody to fulfill a lot of so you can delegate. Yep. Like, what else are some of the things that you're doing to kind of protect yourself?
So recently, as of this week, I found a therapist within my network. And I have an appointment throughout the experience. One of the departments that I work with, they have a session that happens every day in the middle of the day. So I was going to those therapy, like, group sessions for 30 minutes a day. And it's what helped me and inspired me to do the journaling. And from that, I'm like, oh, that feels good to have, you know, it wasn't like you're talking, it was just like a presentation. But I was like, it would feel good to have somebody to talk to and talk some of these things that, you know, we're going through about. And so I started looking for a therapist during this time. And I've gone to therapy. I've been to marriage counseling when I was married, and I've gone through counseling after my divorce, but it wasn't consistent. And so I'm realizing that the therapy it's going to support, especially like my daughter started therapy earlier this year. And so when I saw the developments in her, and she's, you know, a preteen. So and seeing, you know, in this time of her changing and growing and developing and having those situations that she's dealing with and actually growing within a 2-month time, I'm like, oh, I need to go through that. Like, I was excited. I was like, I need to get on this. I need to get on this. And her therapist has been super helpful. Like, she'll check in with me, but she did tell me you need to find your own therapist. So I was like, okay. Okay. So I have done that. And like I said, like not being so quick to go. Like, when people call, I think my phone also was like pulling me because I'm always on email. I'm always texting. I'm always responding on social media, telling the world what's going on. And it's just like, it's not important. Like, when you go through something like that, you want to protect your peace. After it's all said and done, like, you realize what's important. You realize who matters. You realize what matters. And I don't want to jeopardize my peace ever again.
Man. That's a word right there, man. You know, literally, it just sounds like, look, I ain't going back. I ain't turning back. Right. I'm not going back to that place. And I think that's my biggest, you know, the biggest thing I've taken away from this is because I have been one of those people that I wear myself pretty thin. I've worn multiple hats and done those type of things. And it's odd that it could come through the form of a virus that you can get to the point where you're like, hold up, let me filter, you know, let me talk, you know, because even with, you know, I didn't know you had the virus when I talked to you, I called you, and I was just like, you know, why did you call me, you know, but I understand that it's a matter of, look, I'm not trying to put it out to everybody. you're also getting in a space where you can assess things too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Your village, the people that support you, all kinds of things. And so I really appreciate you coming out and actually telling this story, because I know at first we were kind of on the fence about it, but I think that it's something that will definitely inspire people.
Yeah, and then you overcome by the words of your testimony. Like,
amen.
When you are able to be vulnerable and transparent, you get it out. So I have learned that talking about it does help, and help you reflect. So
secrets keep you sick.
Yep.
Mm. And in the midst of death, you find life, huh? And
oh damn, Joe, I think we lost you. We couldn't hear you, but I mean, Mikhail, you got anything before we wrap?
No, I mean, for me, it was just reflecting on, it's kind of what Joe was saying, like you submitted to disease and you didn't. Like, disease is what happens to us. How we live it is a choice. And she reminds me of like my mom with my mom's breast cancer. It was a terminal cancer that was supposed to take her out in less than 2 years. She lived for 15 years.
Wow.
And it was all about just her mental space. She not reconnected. She had a stronger connection with God and purpose. She started focusing on her bucket list things that she wanted to do, and she started living from that. But that experience is what literally propelled her for that many years, and until she couldn't survive anymore. So I agree that you can have a diagnosis, but ultimately it's how you live it that can take you out.
Yeah. So Ray, go ahead and tell the people where they can connect with you, where they can find you. I know, you're going through a retooling, but I know that you're still out here doing great things. I want people to know about it. So go ahead and put it out there for the folks.
Yeah, you can definitely support 3D Girls Inc. at www.3dgirlsinc.org or on Instagram, 3D Girls Inc. We're everywhere, Facebook, email 3dgirlsinc@gmail.com if you want to volunteer. We are looking for people in the Metro Atlanta area to help distribute care packages. Also putting in the atmosphere that we need a van, so we have more requests. It will help make logistics a lot easier. And of course, that will ultimately help my job be and run a lot smoother. So if you want to be involved, please hit us up.
All right. All right. I mean, and for us, if you want to contact her through us, it's You Good Bro Podcast at Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, and YG Bro Podcast on Twitter. Raioni, thank you once again for coming, telling your story. It was very inspiring, and I thought we were going to be talking more about being sick, but it's really uplifted me right now, and I just appreciate you for that. Until next time, people, I am Sam Duke. I am good.
Hey, I'm Sam McKell, and I am good.
I'm Joe Duke, and I am good.
Your turn, Ray.
I'm Raioni, and I'm good.
All right. And just like that, we are going. Thank you so much. Y'all. So, peace.